Here we are with the last episode of Series 1. Yes, seriously, it's already over. They combined the last heat and the grand final into one episode. And if you think that means that this is going to be some sort of bumper episode full of fights and action, guess again. The grand final is one fight with the heat finalists. Now the intro brings up how Bodyhammer has joined Roadblock, Recyclops, Robot the Bruce, and Cunning Plan in the grand final, and how they just need to find one more robot, which will be decided in this episode. Scarab is shown off first, and it looks like an Egyptian tomb, and its weapon looks odd. It weighs in at 86.3 kilograms, so a little on the heavier side. The Blob comes out next, and the name is certainly accurate, as it's just this blob of machinery and spray paint. It weighs in at 73.9 kilograms. Tracy comes out, and it looks like something that I would expect from Robot Arena 2. In fact, it reminds me of Eye Poker. It weighs in at a very light 52.9 kilograms. And now we got the king of rock and roll, Elvis. No, that's not a joke. Elvis has some mental hips as it's able to lift itself up, and it weighs in at 65.7 kilograms. Visually, it's actually kind of interesting looking, but it would get a lot better looking in Series 2, which hopefully we'll get to in the near future. Now, possibly one of my favourite robots of Series 1 comes out next, as Prince of Darkness comes out, weighing in at 27.5 kilograms. It's basic, but I'm a huge fan of it based on its performance, which you're going to soon find out about. And finally, the lightest of the competition is Eubank the Mouse. And it's another one of my favourites of the season because, I mean, just look at them. It's such a cute little design. As always, the gauntlet is up and the Blob comes up first. Making their way out of the turntable, they ponder along past Bash, but they're cut off by Dead Metal, who stops them from making a beeline to the finish. Matilda then comes over as Dead Metal and then Bash begin pushing them back as the Blob soon stops moving, assumedly breaking down. Covering a distance of about 7 meters, it was definitely looking quite risky for them. Elvis starts off, and as you can see, its ability is to push its body upwards into the air, something that would never make sense in Robot Wars or in any robot combat competition. But it's kind of funny and it's kind of neat. But it's certainly quite bizarre at the same time. My assumption is that they were hoping it would make it easier for them to climb up the ramp because then they can't get stuck. But it does nothing for them, as they do still end up getting stuck on the seesaw. It only makes about 2.75 meters, and yeah, let's be honest, it's quite clear that this robot's going out. Tracy makes its way out next and easily pushes past Bash, but ends up driving into the wall, where they begin to slow to a crawl before basically stopping entirely. It's quite sturdily built externally and shockingly invertible, but which is quite surprising for this time period. Robots typically, the moment you flip them over, they were done. But reliability is definitely an issue here. But with a distance of 8.7 meters, that was nothing to worry about. They were clearly safe. Eubank the Mouse was up next and raced right out past Bash and into the wall. It manages to get into some sort of massive Dynasty Warrior style battle with the house robots and somehow makes it past them all to the finish. Oh my god. I love how this robot, I'm pretty sure this robot was one of the stock bots put in to make up the numbers. Why are they letting them go past the first round? I know I've said this before in these Series 1 reviews, but it does not make sense to me. These are the robots that you put in to fill up the numbers, and you're letting them eliminate actual competitors? That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Next up was Scarab, who crawls at Sergeant Bash, but Bash is just not willing to put up with this sluggish display, and is far more aggressive this time, meaning that Scarab is sandwiched between both Bash's and Dead Metal's saws. They keep squeezing past and barely make it to the finish line. Finally up is Prince of Darkness, who goes right up and over the seesaw with ease, which, based on some of the performances with the other robots, you can understand how, for Series 1, that's not too bad. They then climb up the ramp and make it over to the finish line, where Matilda then pushes them back. And then they suddenly try to get technical with it and say, oh, it wasn't all the way through. So it gets past Matilda and makes it through again. Now, what is going on here? Like, I don't remember that ever being a thing. Suddenly with Prince of Darkness, now it needs to be all the way... I don't know. I'm sure that people can point out the other times that people did make it all the way through, but that just seems such a weird point to bring up. And what was that cretin Jeremy talking about? That's the worst robot he's ever seen and looks miserable. That thing competed the gauntlet twice and made it look easy. He deserved to lose Top Gear for that alone. I mean, the Blob and Uglybot are right there, and they look way worse. Don't get me wrong, Prince of Darkness is not much of a looker, but I don't know, like, it's not as bad as some of the other robots we've seen. Now, the next round is Robot Snooker, where a ton of balls are in the center of the arena, and the idea is that the robots need to scoop as many balls as possible in their goal. More like a robot hungry hippos. Notably, Prince of Darkness comes with a scoop to aid them in their goal. The event begins, and there are balls everywhere, and Tracy is stuck! Prince of Darkness gets the first ball, followed closely by Scarab. Prince of Darkness is just making a mockery of this game, pocketing 6 balls overall. While it looks dicey for Blob and Tracy, Eubank breaks down, quote unquote. I think again it's more of a case of a loner bot being thrown out on the second round for the actual competitors. Which again, do that on the first round! I don't understand! Again, Jeremy tries to downplay Prince of Darkness' achievements. Oh, you weren't up against much. Even with the opponents that could try, they didn't do much. Prince of Darkness beat them 6 times over. I'm not standing for this slander. Yeah, they weren't up against much, but this is Series 1. Like, 90% of the robots are kinda bad. Like, it's people figuring out this format at all. There's not even enough robots to make up the numbers. You gotta give Prince of Darkness some dues. Like, yeah, it's nothing special, but it's the best of a bad lot. Anyway, it's time for the fights next, and first up is Scarab versus the Blob. The two bump into each other to start off. Scarab ends up missing a swing, and the Blob, who seems to have broken again, is then pushed into the wall where the house robots have at it with them. The fight ends right there. Oh well. Sorry, there's not much to say here. This is what I mean, like, don't get me wrong, it's obviously the very, very early days of robot combat. Like, I know that, you know, because it had only been a few years in America, and this was, like, the first one in the UK. But, like, this is why I say, like, you should only watch this once you're, like, hardcore into robot combat, because Series 1, it's a tough watch. Then we have Prince of Darkness versus Tracy, and Prince of Darkness actually repainted their bot beforehand, and, you know, because, obviously, of all the disses at its appearance. And while they say it's better, they then get roasted for changing it! It's a conspiracy! What have they all got against this robot? It's been the best performing so far! Oh, it's so ugly, it's so basic. Okay, we'll repaint it. Oh, it looks even worse now. Leave them alone! Oh my god, leave my baby alone! Now the fight starts and Tracy and Prince of Darkness have a pushing contest. Tracy looks a little slow, but then as Prince of Darkness drives around, Tracy ends up ramming into Prince of Darkness' side and punctures the left wheel. This is definitely a mistake that would not be made nowadays, you know, filling tyres up with air, that's not really a thing that people do anymore. It limps along before the other wheel ends up getting punctured, and so Prince of Darkness just can't do much, so the house robots descend to finish the job. That's the one big weakness of Prince of Darkness, is it's great for gauntlets and mini-games, but for the actual combat, yeah, it's woefully weak. Oh wait, shit, sorry, I forgot about the bit. Life isn't fair, your dreams will never come true, and one day you will die and be forgotten, all because Tracy beat Prince of Darkness. Why, Tracy? Why? Anyway, we move on to what would normally have been the main event, Scarab versus Tracy. Now, Scarab has been lent Kilotron's mace to help them deal more damage. The two clash and Scarab's weapon is all the way down. What were they hoping to do? Tracy rams into Scarab and rips some of the armor off. Then they go and ram into Bash as well, as Scarab is cut into with the chainsaw tail of Matilda, one of the few times the chainsaw tail actually could do anything, where Tracy decides to fight them next before ramming into Bash again, as the fight goes to the judges, who give it to Tracy, who moves on to the grand final. And I actually have to say, this was a good fight from Tracy, where it must be said, easily the best performance it's given us. It's a simple design, but oftentimes a simple design can just work really well, and this seems like a very solid design to have in Series 1. Now with the final winner decided, the final fight, the grand final, is here! The Heat finalists are going to compete in one big group battle, and... Okay guys, how the hell is Cunning Plan meant to win this when it's almost a tenth of the weight of its opponents? Also, did Jeremy call it an orgy? That doesn't seem appropriate for BBC. Anyway, the fight starts and the robots all race for each other. Tracy rams into a Cyclops and Roblox tries and fails to wedge them. Cunning Plan then tries to create some distance before running into Robot the Bruce to no effect. Tracy then rams into Cunning Plan and actually ends up stuck on top of Cunning Plan. And due to the fact that Tracy is beached on top, unable to move, and Cunning Plan is being weighed down, both robots are taken out just like that, completely immobile. Roblox then manages to wedge a Cyclops, who barely makes it away, but their chain then breaks off, once again meaning that another robot has been immobilized. That means that we've got 3 robots down, and 3 to go. Robot then goes and tips Robot the Bruce over. Robot the Bruce, despite looking like a tornado in Series 1, is not invertible, so that is the end of Robot the Bruce. Body Hammer meanwhile runs away from Roblox, who wedges them, but they aren't able to make much of it, as Body Hammer does nothing but keep on running as the fight ends and it goes to the judges. Of course, with 2 eliminations under its belt, Roadblock easily wins and takes the trophy as the first ever champion of Robot Wars, on TV at least. You know, there is the American Robot Wars, but the winner of Robot Wars The First Wars. Before they leave us, they do give a few additional awards, giving Mortis the title of the Best Engineered Robot, which I can kind of agree with. Nemesis got the Sportsmanship Award, which from what I can tell, also makes sense. Plunderbird 1 got the Best Design Award, which just makes me sad seeing as we never got to see it fight. And Psycho Sprout got the Most Original Entry. In fact, it's so original, I've only ever seen one other large-scale robot try it, being Orb of Doom. Like, how many robots like Psycho Sprout have you ever seen? And I don't mean like round robots, I mean robots that roll like Psycho Sprout and Orb of Doom do. Those are the only 2 I know of, at least. Overall, I'd only recommend you watch this series like dead last. When you're as deep into enjoying these shows as I am, it can be fascinating to take in the spectacle of some of the earliest days of the sport, where people are still figuring things out, you know, on an international scale. Yeah, the Americans had it figured out at this point, but over in the UK, this was brand new. But apart from a few highlights here and there, it's really rough viewing. There's some robots that I like in this series, but the fights are so often really big letdowns. So many robots fall so easily to the gauntlet. Some of the robots just cannot do the mini games in the center. It's really rough, and I can't blame the builders too much because they're just trying to make something that works. It would take a while before people really got an idea on how to make a viable fighting robot. The last fight was probably the best overall in the series, with some of the best in the competition, and the fact that there was just so many robots, meaning there was a lot more going on. But yeah, overall, don't watch it if you're just a casual fan, but if you are a hardcore fan and you have been watching Robot Wars, you've watched BattleBots, you may even watched King of Bots, give this a check, and best check it on Mech Plus, because like I've said before, Mech Plus is a great place to check it in the highest quality possible. Not a sponsored segment, this is not sponsored. I just want to direct people to Mech Plus because I think that's the best way to see these in a nice high quality. And you can do it for free, so, I mean, there's that. Anyway, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like on this video. Comment down below, maybe you saw this episode and say what you enjoyed about it, or maybe if you liked or disliked this episode. If you could share this video around with your friends, that would be super, super appreciated to get more eyes on the channel. Subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified of future videos on the channel. We got a lot coming up. There's a lot of stuff happening on the gaming side of the Robot Combat community right now. There's just a lot going on. Fuck, it's going to be making a comeback at the end of the week. It's a fun time, really. There's a lot going on, and I'd love to have you along for the ride. Also, if you want to give me that extra bit of support, we do now have memberships which have custom emotes and soon enough bonus videos. You do not have to, of course. It's not going to be anything like life-changing, but it helps me out. Either way, any support you give is truly appreciated. Thank you all so much, and I hope to see you all next time. Later in the week,